Hello there, welcome to Brian Lomax's Movie Talk and my ranking of all the Star Wars films. This is everything Star Wars that has been theatrically released, so that has ended up in cinemas. Obviously not going to touch on TV shows, the specials, the Christmas specials or anything like that, just the stuff that was theatrically released. By my count, that makes 10 films, so let's get into it. At number 10, we've got The Clone Wars. Now I believe this was actually taken from the TV series. I don't know if it was made as a movie or whether it was episodes that were strung together or whatever. Either way, it ended up as a movie and it ended up in theatres. So I went to see it and it's really forgettable. It's not necessarily that it's terrible. It doesn't always feel like a Star Wars movie because you're missing certain elements that have been in each of the Star Wars films. But yeah, it's just kind of instantly forgettable. I remember there being some annoying characters in it as well, and you know, it says Clone Wars on it, so you want the Clone Wars, and it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like another little mini adventure that takes place during the Clone Wars. At number 9 is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. This has got an incredible villain in Darth Maul. It's got an incredible lightsaber battle between him and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn. Beyond that, there's very little else in this film other than the pod race to recommend it, because most of it is just Jar Jar Binks being Jar Jar Binksed. So this film got well and truly Binksed. It ain't good. It's not good at all. And even Lucas himself admitted that with this trilogy that he started with this one, he kind of saved 75% of the story he had for part 3, 25% for part 2, and this was literally filler, and it shows. And number 8 is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I don't think this is a bad film, but it's just, you know, when you look at how good Star Wars can be when it's at its best, this just doesn't even come close. There's an over-reliance on CGI, as is the case with this prequel trilogy. And yeah, start of the Clone Wars, but we don't really get to see the Clone Wars. So this event that is quite big in Star Wars lore is kind of just touched on, and we never really get that film. It's a bit like how we always get a Terminator film that talks about Judgment Day, but we never get that Judgment Day film, you know, set in the future. Yeah, I kind of feel that way about this. So yeah, Attack of the Clones. We've got a bit of a terrible love story going on. The romance is handled awfully. That's both by performances, but particularly by the script and direction by George Lucas. Lucas is very good at building a world, crafting a story, but he ain't very good on the delivery, it must be said. Which brings me to number 7 on my list, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of people spit the dummies out, and that is the original Star Wars A New Hope from 1977. For me, this film is a little bit overrated. I get it, I get why it became so big, and I think if I was around when it came out, I would probably love it as much as most. But for me, yeah, the first 25-30 minutes are really dull, in which we're following these two droids around and there's very little dialogue, and they're just getting into all kinds of misadventures, and I'm looking at my watch and I'm thinking, what's the purpose of all this? You know, it's just get there faster. And then we've got, I've got to say, pretty awful direction and, well, mainly scripting from George Lucas. And I get it. He's a world builder, and he does that brilliantly with this film. To create this universe that he does here, to see it come to life, that's great, and it's what still makes this film a classic. For, you know, even for me, who's not the biggest of Star Wars fans. But I just think, yeah, some of the character moments are terrible. Like Luke sees his foster parents kind of charred to a crisp, decides to go on a little adventure. Leia sees her whole homeworld get obliterated. And the next time we see her, she's cracking jokes at Luke about him looking too short to be a stormtrooper and all that. It's just, yeah, the character moments aren't really there when it comes to believability, when it comes to emotion. I know a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people find this quite an emotional film. I just don't, because at the times where there should be really deep moments, they're lost. And the lightsaber battle as well between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, a bit stilted by today's standards. You know, you look at it now and it's a bit, oh yeah, it's just two guys kind of stood there whacking sticks at each other. But yeah. Okay, still great special effects, great world building, really good start to the franchise. And again, I do like the film. I just think with all these problems I've listed, I can't quite bring myself to call it the classic that everybody else does. And number 6 is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, I'm not saying that this is a better film than A New Hope, but I prefer it over it. You know, it's not that it's better made or anything, but it's just, it clicks along really nicely. It never skips a beat. It's kind of action all the way, and it does have quite an engrossing story. Even though we know where it's going, we know that Anakin's going to turn into Darth Vader, I do like that journey. It's a shame that the groundwork done in the 2 movies before it wasn't done particularly well, because I think we'd have a bit more emotional investment in his relationship with Padme. But there you go. It's still a cracking roller coaster ride. You know, the opening sequence, the battle, really thrilling. Especially the space battle stuff and the fight with Count Dooku. Particularly the end lightsaber battle. Still one of the better lightsaber battles of this entire franchise, I think, between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And I do think it has quite an emotional punch there as well. So yeah, when the special effects are good, they're very good, and when they're not, well, they're not. Number 5, we've got Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. This would be very close to being my number 1 if it wasn't for the Ewoks. Look, the Ewoks, you either love them or hate them. You know, if you love the Ewoks, then this is probably one of the best Star Wars films for you. If you don't, then like me, all that happens is when they come on screen, they drag you away from the stuff that you really want to be watching, which is all the stuff with the Emperor and Luke and Darth Vader up on that ship, which I find really gripping, and yeah, it really sucks me in. That's the stuff I want to watch. That's the stuff I want to stick with. Every time we go back down to Endor, it kind of loses me. There's still some good stuff on there, you know, like the speed chaser fight and that, and there's some other really great stuff in the film, like Jabba the Hutt, his place, and yeah, a lot of the stuff that goes on there, all the stuff with Boba Fett and all that. Yeah, some really classic moments. So I think it's a very good film, very good Star Wars film. But if it wasn't, you know, if those Ewoks weren't in it, this would be a lot higher. Number 4 for me is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This does a really good job of bridging the gap between Episode 3 and 4. It is essentially Episode 3.5. Real kick-ass moment with Darth Vader towards the end. Very good kind of down and dirty, gritty version of the Star Wars universe. I like this kind of aesthetic in this world. You know, I know the Star Wars films do tend to err more on the fluffier side, because let's face it, at the end of the day, they were designed to be family films. Way back when George Lucas did it, they were kids films. They were meant for family viewing. But I gotta say, I do like this aesthetic. You know, Gareth Edwards kind of goes a bit more serious with it, a bit darker, and I do like it. I do still think it's a little bit overrated. I know when it came out, a lot of people said it's, you know, best Star Wars film yet, and I disagree, obviously, because it's my number 4, but I still think it's a rip-roaring ride. At number 3, we've got the latest entry in this universe, which is Star Wars The Last Jedi. Yeah, I really liked this film. I know a lot of people seem very mixed on it. I liked it a lot. For me, there's a fair bit of weakness in the opening act, and that's mainly due to the fact that, once again, as with Ewoks, there's a part of the story that whenever it comes on, it takes me away from the other story, the other part of the story that actually I'm really invested in. And that's the stuff with Finn and Rose. Rose particularly, you know, she's this new character in the film. I don't really like her that much. It's not that I don't like her as a character, I'm not sold. I'm not convinced. It feels, I don't know, there's something just not there. There's something missing, and it feels like maybe there's a few too many moments where a bit of forced humour comes in. They're trying to lighten the mood or whatever, and for me it just doesn't work. I'm far more invested in what's going on with Luke and Rey and Kylo Ren. Like I say, that's just the first act, and once those two stories kind of converge, the film becomes amazing, really amazing. Lots of kick-ass moments in it, and yeah, I just like the exploration of the Force and what it really is to be a Jedi, and what the Jedi truly offer to the universe, if anything. So yeah, very good film, but like I say, two more above it. So what are they? In my number 2 spot, we've got Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, this is for me the best of the original trilogy. Obviously, my second favourite of the entire franchise. I just think, to me, this is very much like, it has the flavour of Return of the Jedi, but without any of those annoying bits. You know, no Ewoks, nothing to distract you from the core story. You've got a sequel which was, it built on the original in such an amazing way. It was quite a lot darker, more emotional. I felt there was a better handling of the characters here. I think, this is the one in the original trilogy in which George Lucas had the least involvement with when it came to like the directing side of things, and I think that shows. You got Irving Kershner on here. He does a fantastic job directing it. He clearly has a better understanding of how to get more believable performances out of his actors and how to get the most emotion out of the plot points. And so for anyone who's been paying attention, you will obviously know that my number 1 choice is The Force Awakens. For me, this is the film that made me a fan of the franchise. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a diehard like many people out there. I know Luke Ryan from Razor Wire Reviews, he's a diehard fan. That's what a diehard fan looks like. I'm not that. So for me, someone who's a bit more of a casual fan, Force Awakens just blew me away. It was my favourite film of the year when it came out, so that's how much I loved it, which was a real big surprise for me. I just like what J.J. Abrams does. I think he has a perfect handling of the material, and from start to finish, it was just a non-stop roller coaster ride. But it wasn't just action for action's sake. Really good character moments were woven throughout into the action. So yeah, loved it. Loved every minute of it. It's got my personal favourite lightsaber battle in the entire franchise. I think Kylo Ren is the best villain of the entire franchise. I loved his conflicted nature. I love the way they handle it. And yeah, a new hero in the shape of Rey, which I enjoyed following and really invested in, and love some of the new characters. Poe Dameron, love the relationship between him and Finn. I want to see more of that, to be honest, in episode 9. So yeah, that for me is the best Star Wars film. Love it, love it, love it. But what about you? What do you think of my ranking? How would you rank the films? Comment below, let me know. Thanks for watching, and until next time, cracking.